This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. We need a sales manager. We need a leader on the sales side. Let's take our best salesperson. I mean, clearly that's the individual that should be next in line to be sales manager. Agreed? Yes, we're agreed. Let's do this. So we offer the job. They wholeheartedly accept, want to move up the ladder, hopefully make more money, etc., etc. Ask any HR person what you get when you take your very best salesperson and you promote them to sales manager. Well, you get 2 things. You lose your best salesperson, and most of the time, and I do mean most, 90+% of the time, you get a very bad sales manager, mediocre at best. The question is, if we know this is true, and look, there's not been a scientific study done on it that I can find, but I have talked to hundreds of HR people and VP sales, general managers, owners. They all agree. Yeah, this is a dumpster fire. I mean, it just doesn't work. But Kelly, come on. What are we supposed to do? Promote our worst guy? Let me guess. Promote somebody in the middle of the pack. Somebody that's average at best. No, that's not what I'm advocating. What I'm advocating is maybe, just maybe, we think about it a little bit. I mean, listen, I was Exhibit A. I was back-to-back National Salesperson of the Year, top person in the country. Quite an honor to be that person. And we had an opening for regional sales manager in the middle part of the country. And they came to me and said, do you want to be a manager? Well, of course I do. I mean, first off, there's just ego. Secondly, there's upward mobility and prestige and, every other thing. I actually made less money as a sales manager, but that be that as it may, you're trying to climb the corporate ladder and all that kind of thing, right? So I became the sales manager and I did not have the first idea what to do. So what I did is I went to our sales leader training program, which was extensive. In fact, it worked like this. Good luck, right? I mean, that's what most sales leadership training programs look like. It's like, you're a great salesperson. You'll be a great sales manager. Knock yourself out. Wow. So many places to go with this. Why is it such a big problem? Well, let's just start with the obvious. Many times, many times, your best salesperson has no business being anywhere near a management position. At least not without extensive assessment and training and development and a lot of other things. Why? Because they are not cut out for it. I mean, think about it. What exactly do you hire a sales manager to do? And in fact, this is probably the better place to start, is what are you hiring a sales manager to do? Let me tell you what a lot of companies do. When they're hiring sales managers, they're looking for someone to make sure we have the appropriate number of salespeople, make sure they know what their quotas are, work with them to get their sales budgets prepared and presented, and make sure they know what their quotas are and they know how much expense money they have and what trade shows they're going to attend and all that, and to ensure that they are entering all of their information into the CRM package, because we need somebody to ride herd on that CRM deal, right? So that's you. And then we need you to go to endless meetings, and we need you to be involved in marketing and sales strategy, and on and on and on it goes. That's what most companies do. Well, more than 50%, certainly anecdotally in my experience. But what should a sales manager be doing? Well, yes, they should be hiring and developing salespeople. No question about that. They should be effective coaches. They should develop a culture of excellence and accountability. They should be making sure that people are trained effectively, understand the products and how to sell them effectively. They should level up selling skills and certainly do some of the process things that are necessary, including CRM and budgets and things of that nature. But the vast majority of their time should be developing a team of salespeople. Now, if we disagree on that, you can ignore the rest of this, but I don't think you do. I think that you believe that the sales leader is responsible for developing a team of salespeople who go out and crush their number, right? I certainly hope that's the case. Now, what's wrong with this picture? Well, the top 5% of all salespeople, if you take the top 20% of salespeople, you know, the old adage is 80% of our sales are coming from the top 20% of our salespeople. That's generally true, generally speaking. You know, there's a group of salespeople at the top that are dragging us across the finish line because they're overreaching their quotas while several are underperforming. Right? So we've got these people who are at the top, let's call it the top 20%. But the top 20% of the top 20%, you know, the top 4 or 5%, they're unicorns. They're really great at selling. They produce, they find opportunities, they convert them, they have a full pipeline, they're always working. They're elite. They're elite for a reason. They consistently and predictably create the kind of numbers that we want. Here's the problem. Many of them cannot even tell you how they do it. They just got it, right? They'll tell you, man, I just do my thing. I'm good at it. Okay, maybe the number's smaller than 5% or 4% or whatever. Maybe it is. But when you take your top salesperson and turn them into a manager, let me tell you what often the skills they do not have. They do not have patience. They do not know how to coach. They don't have the time to invest in the development of others. They can't figure out why people can't get it. What is wrong with you? They don't know why they don't catch on that fast. They don't know why they don't know the products. They don't go out and ride with them. They've got egos, big egos, a lot of them. And so what happens is they have an enormous amount of turnover, and they turn around and tell the boss, well, it's not my fault. Clearly, I'm awesome. They may not say it that way, but that's the intent. Look, can't be me. I'm a great salesperson. I just can't find people who get it. I don't find people who are driven. I don't find people who are motivated, and on it goes. The real challenge is they don't have the will to coach. They don't have the patience to coach. They can't break down processes into pieces that people can learn and stack on and develop over time. They will step in front of salespeople and do it for them and say, see, that's how you get this thing done. Now, next time, do it my way. Tell me I'm wrong. That was me. Guilty on all counts, including the ego piece, of course. But then I realized very quickly, I have no earthly idea what I'm doing. Number one, I don't know how to hire. Do you actually teach your sales leaders if they have hire and fire responsibilities? Do you teach them how to interview effectively, how to identify talent, how to go through the process of interviewing and onboarding them? Do you teach them how to manage performance, create a culture of excellence and accountability? Do you teach them how to manage the individual salesperson's performance? See my point? We put these people in this position and they have no idea what they're doing. No idea. We don't even change the focus of their work. We just assume that great salespeople will make great sales managers. My friends, that is a serious dumpster fire assumption. There's no doubt about it. I've talked with sales leaders, with the CEO, general manager, owner, president, and they're like, yeah, we can get people up to speed in 6 weeks. Except you go back and look at their history, and that's blatantly wrong. They're not doing it. And what do? It's the economy. It's the salespeople. You just can't find good people. It has nothing to do with the leader, does it? Or their training or coaching or development or mentoring or their expectations. Here's the reality. You need to understand exactly how hard it is and how long it takes to get a salesperson up to speed to milestone number one. Not wildly experienced, enormous background, can handle any situation, any scenario, can close any deal without help. No, no, no. First milestone, which we can define loosely as we can put them in the field. They know enough to intelligently ask questions, answer a handful of questions, to know what they don't know so that they can seek technical support or sales support or managerial support. But that doesn't prevent us from putting them in the field. What do they have to learn and know in order to get to that first milestone? I can send you out into the field and you can make sales calls. Doesn't mean you know everything. Doesn't mean you can close every deal, but it means you can be functional. What's the first milestone look like? Listen, there are 4 enormous buckets of learning that have to get filled up to a certain extent to even reach milestone number 1. Let's start first with just knowledge. Speaking the vocabulary of the industry, understanding the market, its applications for your product, its uses for your product, all of those things, getting functionally literate to some level in terms of your knowledge of the industry. Now we can move to products, learning your products. No, not knowing all of them, learning all of them, mastering all of them, but drawing a line in the sand. How much do they have to learn about which specific products to put you out in the field and go have conversations and to make a sales call? So you may have 10 product lines or, bazillions of SKUs, but you know that 80% of your business or a good portion of your business comes from 4 primary products. Do we need to teach them those 4 primary products? If the answer is yes, how long does it take? Please don't tell me a week in training at sales school or at the company, because you're wrong. You just are. I mean, the forgetting curve alone tells me in a week they've forgotten 90% of the new information you've given them on products. And just being exposed to those products in the course of a week, especially most training being fire hose training, they're not retaining a fraction of that stuff. So no, it's not 2 weeks. It's probably not 2 months. I mean, you can start moving there. It's a graph curve, certainly, as they're escalating their knowledge, and it depends upon how much time you give them in real customers' locations, how much time you give them with a product manager, a marketing manager, or a salesperson in the field looking at actual installations. How much time do they get with you, sales manager, sales leader, working alongside of them in the field, making calls? Highly variable. And that's just 2 things. Listen, you also know they've got to master all of the workflow processes and systems inside of your office in order to be functional. They've got to learn how to handle your CRM system, and they've got to learn how to handle the quote process, the presentation process, the order intake process, and all the reports that you have them doing as a salesperson. Systems and processes, that could take a couple of weeks just in and of itself to learn how to actually do it on your own, right? And so that may be small growth over time, and it may take longer than 2 weeks, but aggregated time, at least. And then we get into selling skills. That's another big bucket. That includes your sales process, your sales planning process, all of the budgeting and every other thing that goes along with it. You know what the bottom line is? Getting up to speed in order to be functional at milestone number 1 is ridiculously difficult. And your expectations are likely to be way out of phase with reality. I think one of the very weakest skills that sales leaders have is they do not know how to identify, attract, and acquire talent. Unique talent, sales-born talent. I'm not born salesperson, but people who have the propensity to be great at selling. And I think that if somebody shows up, I just take a Paul Fuller. He shows up, he's a good-looking guy, he's young, he's aggressive, enthusiastic, articulate, talks a good game. He's our guy, okay? This guy's going to kill it. But how many times as a sales leader, I'm really embarrassed to admit how many times it's happened to me because I quit counting. Have you picked somebody, you went back and said, this guy's a killer. He's just gonna crush it. And, 3 months later, your boss is going, Where did that go wrong?
Yep. I think we hit the same strain, and I agree with you completely. I just did two podcasts on mine, on the art and science of complex sales, with people that are they are ninjas in this area. And the most recent one was a guy named Andy Miller. And his story on that is fascinating, like why he got so invested in this idea of hiring the right people. And the net of it is, right, that he was a U.S. guy. It was in the 80s. He went over 80s, early 90s. He went over to Europe to spin up a sales team. He hired somebody, and it was either Denmark or the Netherlands, I forget, but amazing on paper, exactly what you said.
Right.
Exactly what you said. And the first 9 months, so she showed up the first week, came in like halftime the second week, and then after that for 9 months, she disappeared. And he wasn't allowed, at that time, he wasn't allowed in that country to make a termination or
To
anything
work,
like that.
Right.
And so it became this passion of his on that front end of the funnel, that very front, to always be hiring and to dive on that. And I don't think people have had that. Maybe if you're a sales leader, you've had a situation similar to that at some point. So
no doubt.
I'm absolutely with you. It's like, how do we hire them, and how do we get to know them? So
yeah,
I give you 10
about
points. Sorry.
Well, thank you. I gave you a solid 8.5. I thought it was great.
8.5?
Yeah.
Man, I'm over ambitious in my scoring.
Overachieving. Okay. So here's the thing though. This gets compounded. You know, I have a specific model that I believe in terms of sales transformation process. You can't do it with the wrong people, but people get invested in the wrong people. It's like, hey, they've been here 6 months. I don't know if I've done everything. I'm like, well, I can tell you already, you haven't done everything to help them succeed. And in some cases, it's not even possible, because you're trying to do things with them that, you know, they don't have the desire, the motivation, the commitment. You know, they don't have the sales DNA. They don't have the tactical skills. There's a lot of things, but they're never going to get there. I was really intrigued by something that I read, and I'm trying to remember exactly who it was, but I want to say it was the HR leader, CHRO, I think, of Netflix. I think it was Netflix. I could have that wrong. But they said, we got rid of performance reviews a long time ago. Don't do performance reviews. What we do is go to the manager and go, let me ask you one question. Would you fight to keep this person on your team? And if the answer is not absolutely, don't even touch this person. Okay, we got to have a conversation. You know how it goes. So I'll say, tell me how you feel about this person. Well, you know, they, yeah. Well, listen, I think they have potential. I'm like, would you fight to keep them on your team? In your heart of hearts, do you believe in them and you're going to keep them? And I like, you already answered my question. I mean, it's, you know, and so if you've got the wrong people, everything you do from here on out is a waste of time. I mean, getting to know the wrong people. I mean, I'm with you. Getting to know your people 100%. That's nails, right? I'm Kelly Riggs, host of the Sales Untraining Podcast. A couple of quick questions for you. Do you hire salespeople? Is sales turnover far too high in your organization? Do you struggle to find A players for your sales team? Well, these are very common questions, and there is a better way to hire. I'm a partner with Objective Management Group, OMG, and they have been assessing sales candidates for over 30 years. In fact, they've assessed over 2.5 million salespeople. Now, this is a very different type of assessment. First thing out of your mind is it another behavioral assessment? Is it a psychometric tool? Is it a personality quiz? No, nothing like that. It is based on 21 very specific sales competencies. And you need to listen to this. This is crazy. It is 91% predictive of sales performance. That's right, 91% predictive. You can't even make a claim like that without the science behind it. Listen, if you struggle to find the right people, or if you just need a lot more help in the hiring process and making sure you're getting in front of the right people to hire, please email me, Kelly at bizlockerroom.com. Oh, by the way, and you can absolutely try it for free, and it has a guarantee. Kelly at bizlockerroom.com. Back to the show. Robin Burr joining us. We're talking about the psychology of selling. And I'm really interested, Robin, when we talk about the biggest mistake that sales leaders make in developing their sales teams. From your perspective, based on your background, where are sales leaders, sales managers, where are they going awry?
They're filling their head of their new SDRs or BDRs or whatever you want to call them with product knowledge. So much product knowledge. When you start with an organization, you look at your first 2 weeks of onboarding. What's the training going to look like? It's here's the product. Here's how it all works. You go watch a couple of demos. Here's all the technical specification that you need to know, and you fill your head with all of that information, and then send your reps out into the world and wonder why that's the thing that starts spilling out.
Right.
And then you try telling your reps, oh, you shouldn't talk about the product so much. It's like, well, that's my comfort zone. You made that my comfort zone. What am I going to do when I get uncomfortable, when I get nervous, when I get anxious? I'm going to go to my comfort zone, and that's talking about the product. Imagine if I didn't have that.
And this is where the whole insanity thing just kills me. It's like, doing the same thing over and over. There is boatloads of research out there that says if you go straight to demo, your chances of closing that deal drop dramatically, right? And yet all these SDRs, BDRs, so many of them, even business to business salespeople in the world that I live in, the first thing they want to do is they want to start showing a product, or they want to get a proposal out right away, right? And the numbers just say that's asinine, but yet we keep doing it.
Because it's easy.
There you go, because it's easy. Is there a way to change that? That's the thing is, I think sales managers, sales leaders, corporate leaders, they have the same problem that we all do. They don't change easily. They don't like change. Well, we'll just keep doing that. Maybe we'll just get lucky, Robin, and we'll find some natural born salespeople, and then we can teach them the product, and then they can go out. So is there such a thing? Natural born sales leader?
Natural born? Yeah, I think there are, but I think they're like 1 in 1,000. And I think they're just inherently, have that, confidence, charisma, and commercial acumen. But for us mere mortals, no, I think what happens is here's the thing, right? Is you generally have people who work their way up through sales and then become a sales manager. So they may well, not always, but they may well have been for the organization for a while back, and now they're not selling. They're out of touch with how prospects have changed. So their reference point is, oh, well, that's what I used to do. Now, what's going to fix that issue is, well, how about we hire more people? How about we invest in more marketing? What about if we double down on activity? Let's get some sales tools in to make us more efficient. Not effective,
right,
but efficient.
Yes.
How can we do more? Well, sometimes doing more isn't the answer. Sometimes doing less gives you room for, doing the right things.
Yeah. It's like the concept of the salesperson who's got a defined territory and, say they've got 150 or 200 customers, and you say, listen, that's crazy. You can't manage that many customers. So what we're going to do is cut you down to 60 and give you 20 prime targets, to go grow your business. But we want you to give up 120 of these meaningless, very small customers. And salespeople lose their mind. They're like, no. You can't take. Like, do you understand that you've already pulled all the low hanging fruit? It's time to really focus on serious growth and not just what falls out off the tree. And being able to say, I have 200 customers is like this. It's like this lifeline or something, right? But it's totally ineffective.
Yeah, and then you're just being busy because you're running around on like a hamster wheel, just trying to find any scrap of a deal because you've given yourself no room to actually seriously prospect and find new customers. And one of the posts I put on LinkedIn a while ago was around how I think every year you should fire 10 to 20% of your customers. You look at your customer portfolio every year. Yeah. And you look at 10%, and you can decide who you relegate. It might be, for any sales managers listening to this will go, well, it'd be the ones who don't spend with us, but maybe not.
Maybe not.
There might be customers there that are giving you fairly good revenue, but they're just a pain in the ass. And they're sucking your time and your energy, or they might give you a lot of business, but because they negotiated so hard, there's no profit in it. So you got to really select, like, who are my worst customers? However you want to define that, I've got to clear them out and make way for new blood. And you should do that every year, I think.
A written goal without a plan is a disaster waiting to happen. It's a train wreck, right? Because you can put up all these lofty goals, but then the question becomes, how do I get there? But make no mistake, defining that finish line is absolutely critical. And we just don't do that. Instead, typically, we provide quotas and we say, this is your goal, this is your objective, except that it's not generated by me. One of the things that I did, I'd really like to hear what you think about this. It worked well for me, but when I was a sales manager, I didn't set my salespeople's goals for them. I didn't say, here's your quota for the year. Congratulations, you did X, Y, or Z last year. Here's your new increased quota. This is your new goal, your new objective. I never did that. Now, my boss, I was a regional manager. My boss came down and said, congratulations, here's your new quota. But I knew that by doing it differently and appealing to my people to decide what their own personal goal was, that I could make my objective, my quota from the company work. And that's what I did. I would say, all right, I want you to assess your current sales, your capability, your pipeline, where you think you can go, and I want you to tell me what your new quota is. What? Yes, you tell me what your new quota is. You would think, Kelly, that's just ridiculous. I mean, what your salespeople are going to do is sandbag and they're going to lowball and all that. Do you know consistently that didn't happen? Consistently, it did not happen. In fact, the opposite happened. I would say, okay, fantastic. I'm excited to see your plan, excited to see your number. Let's start there. What do you think your quota needs to be? And it would be some astronomical number. They did $1.5 million last year. It's like, I'm doing 2.3 this year. I'm like, okay, wow. First, congratulations. Now, show me the plan that gets you there. See, that's the difference. Show me the plan that gets you there. I want to know the specific pipeline, the specific targets, what their potential is, why you think you can win these. Show me how you're going to get there. More often than not, I'm pulling them back down off the ledge. I'm like, 2.3, that's substantial. But I'm thinking based on your plan, I see you getting to 1.9, 2, 2.1, and look at what it's going to do for you. Let's talk about what this number does for you. How much money do you make? Why is that important to you? What will you do with it? In many ways, this process was like selling to a client, uncovering that pain point and revealing what's important to the buyer and helping them see the benefit of getting there. And that's what I did. And routinely, not because of me, because I had talented people. I mean, we crushed it. We crushed our numbers. The last corporate job I had, we got together and we were measured on units and revenue sold. And I got the team together and said, what do you guys think we can do? What's the number? What do we want to shoot for? And hands would go up. We need to do X. This is what we need to do. I'd say, great. Tell me why. Why is that important? And somebody else would go, I don't think that's high enough. Wait a minute. Let's temper that. Maybe that's a little too aggressive. We've only done this and that. But by the time I'm done, we've settled on a number. It's our number. It's our goal. And we break it down into chunks, manageable bites that we can go conquer. And we can do that. And it's not me putting a quota on them. It's them driving the performance of their individual sales efforts for their own individual benefit because it means something to them personally. The vast majority of companies in my 19 years of doing this, their sales training is product training. I mean, clearly you have to learn the product. But when you lead with product and end with product, What we know is you're going to go out and push product. And we're not really going to talk about customer challenges and needs and all those kinds of things, even though, and I covered this in a different podcast, but even though we tell them you need to ask questions, that questioning process often sounds like an interrogation, and it's designed just to find out the stuff that I need to sell you something, right? So this is a really big transition. It's a really big shift in the process of training and developing salespeople. What did it look like before you got involved in that process? Was it more traditional in terms of what I've described?
Yeah, it was product training, by and large. And it's funny you mentioned something a second ago. I preach 5 P's. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So prepare for your call. Think about the things that you don't just show up ready to spill information. Ask more questions than talk, right? And that's the biggest challenge I think I've found, because as salespeople, naturally we're social creatures and we just want to go out and kill that next sale. And I'm like, whoa, cowboy, settle in just for a minute. There's a lot that you could be missing. Ask questions upstream and downstream of where we're at. What other problems are they having? We may not be able to solve every problem, but through our networks, we might be able to help them. And that's valuable as well. And that builds trust. That tells them you're not there just for the quick sale. You're there because you have a genuine interest.
Iron sharpens iron. So that's a very, it's true. But we have to first, and that goes back to my second point. You do have, I don't think a lot of sales leaders know how to hold themselves accountable. And that's a ongoing journey for me. But creating that culture of accountability and want to and can do results is really, really cool. And then I'm going to add to something you said there, Kelly, because one of the things that I find so cool, so amazingly cool, is when you as a sales leader, say it's 6 months or a year or whatever, you just back up, right? You back up, and that sales rep is doing the right things, following the process. They're making the process better. They're selling more than you ever could, right? Because you've held them accountable and worked with them through that first year. Right. I mean, it's such a gift and a blessing. It's so cool to watch. And then they're smashing goals and changing lives, and that culture snowballs. It absolutely 100% snowballs. And I think the hardest part of what you said is starting it.
Yeah. And I think that is the coolest part, is the feeling that you get and what you see permeate your. When I was in orthopedics, and listen, it's going to sound like I'm taking a lot of credit. I'm not. I mean, I got lucky. I hired some really good people, and I was smart enough to mostly get out of the way. But I believed in training like crazy, so that's the only thing I knew how to do. So I trained. But there came a point in time where the region that I managed, these guys were so good. I think we had about 8 or 9 people, and 7 of them were in the top 10, including the top 5. I mean, we're just killing it, right? And I'll never forget, the company would come out with a sales contest between regions. And so I would have a regional meeting, and we're doing some training and review and this and that and the other, and I would introduce the sales contest. And I'd say, hey guys, great news. They're having another sales contest. And the first thing that was said was, where are we going this time? I'm like, that's my man, right? I mean, that's the level of confidence they had. It's like, it's not close. We're going to kill everybody. And we did. I mean, they did. I was the manager, but they were out busting it in the field. And they got that reward. And I'm a really big proponent of contests. I like competition, man. The right kind, right-hearted. Don't put people at odds. Don't create conflict. But I love a competition to achieve. I love that stuff.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.